The first step in installing a Honda Grom Fender Eliminator kit from any brand is removing the stock Honda Fender, which some people refer to as a shovel or a boat anchor. I've already got started on the process. It's actually very straightforward. Since you're just removing parts, all you have to look for are the places where there's a bolt, take it out, and eventually the whole assembly comes off. So I got the kind of tedious part out of the way first. This piece of plastic is held in underneath with two tabs at the very top, which are these two here, and 4 spots where it was anchored in. So those just pop out, and this is what protects the wiring and everything underneath. There's actually a metal frame inside, which I'll show you. There's actually a metal frame inside here, which is what the Fender actually has bolted to the subframe of the bike. We're going to need to be removing this, kind of an order to removing everything. First, remove the bottom plastic panel. Next, you disconnect all of the wiring, which is tucked up nicely in one of these little rubber grommets. The next step, with the wiring tucked up out of the way, is removal of both stock turn signals. Now, we've disconnected the wiring. The next step is removing this nut on the end. There's a single retaining nut for each of these. It's a 14 millimeter. Once you get the wrench on there and loosen that up a little bit, it comes out quite easily. Once it's been unscrewed by hand, you can remove the nut from the wire. Set that aside. You're going to need this to reinstall them. Then the turn signal simply pulls straight out. There's a metal bracket with the turn signal that once it's in the right spot, the bracket will not rotate separate from the body of the turn signal. That's because there's 2 flat edges at the bottom here, and those flat edges line up with a flat section in that hole. The other hole here is not for anything other than sitting right there in this piece of plastic. So we're really bolting the turn signals to this metal, and that's what's holding them in place. The plastic is just there to locate them and point them so that they don't rotate. It's a nice design, but anyway, remove both turn signals, pull the wiring out. After that, with the wiring disconnected, you don't actually have to remove the plate bracket. You don't have to remove the reflector or the light. I've already done some work on that. I had taken mine off a while ago, but put it back on for this video. The next step, all you have to do once you've disconnected the wiring and taken your turn signals off, all you have to do is take out these 4 bolts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Using a 12 millimeter wrench, this is bolt 1, 2, 3 down there, and 4. Once these 4 bolts are undone, the entire assembly should come off. Now, before you do that, you might want to take some of that wiring. Oh, I forgot to mention, there's a holder for the tail light here. You should take out these 2 screws to take the outer housing off, pull the light bulb out, and push the rubber through. Let me show you what that looks like. With those 2 outer screws removed, you can pull the outer housing of the plate light off. You can remove the light bulb from the center, then simply push the connector through the hole so that that's on the inside. Then, with the socket pushed through, you simply need to fish the wiring out. Now, you're going to have a bit of an issue with that. It's a large rubber connector, but it does have a lot of hard components in it, so it's not going to fish easily through this thin little gap right up in here. What you'll want to do is move it over to one of the 2 sides next to the metal bracket itself. And if you do that, the socket itself should come free. Now, with the socket out, you can undo your retaining zip tie for the wiring. And slide the socket up This is very hard to do one-handed, by the way. All I did there was lift up on this plastic a little bit, get it away from the metal bracket, just enough that I could slide my socket over the metal tube. Now I have it coming out the bottom here. And here's all the wires for the turn signals. All of this is separate from the metal bracket and the plastic that's remaining. At this point, those 4 bolts and you're good to go. When removing the last of the bolts, be sure to support the plastic fender and the metal fender assembly with your hand. Then, you can see, you can easily fish that wiring out, and you have a shovel. We've removed all of the stock parts, we have our wiring hanging down, we're ready to begin install on our Fender Eliminator.